My next guest, the director and executive producer of the brilliant 10-part docuseries, The Dynasty, New England Patriots on Apple TV+, Matt Hamachek. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm better than Matt Ryan having to relive 28-3 thanks to you.
I can't believe you went there. I was wondering when I saw he was on today, but that's got to be brutal, right?
I mean, you tell me from what your rehashing of it, how brutal must that be for Matt Ryan?
I think of all the football things that we worked on, meaning like this story is so much bigger than football, right? But there were a few moments in this, like the snow game and like this game, that we really had to expand on. And the two people who actually cut the first version of this are two guys who were working on the project who grew up 2 towns outside of Foxborough. And one of them was actually at the game live, and the other one was abroad. And I hope I'm not blowing up his spot here by saying this, but he actually went to bed in the middle of the game because he was just like, there's no way they're coming back. And then all of his brothers woke him up and said, you've got to turn on the TV, the Patriots are coming back, and all this stuff. So look, it was one of those things when we were putting it together, just like, this is almost too good to be true. It feels like you're making a fiction movie about a football team coming back from that much of a deficit. So I can only imagine being on the other side of it.
I went home in the third quarter.
Oof.
I did. That's okay, because then I got to relive the brilliant theater of it all on The Dynasty, which everybody needs to check out. Episode 7. It's called Under Pressure. Tom Brady's feeling it. Belichick drafts Jimmy G, which I've always said, I was like, he was the key to all of this. That's what I've always said about him. You know, Tom gets thrown under the bus for Deflategate, the whole thing. So for a guy that always seems to be on the quest for approval, or at least at that point, how did this moment in time change Tom Brady?
I think when we talked to everybody, there was a few things that they talked about. First, the Tom Brady story really starts at Michigan, right? Where he goes there, he's a seventh string quarterback. By the time of his 5th year senior year, he works his way up to starter. And then this kid, Drew Henson, comes in, who, as Tom says, is, bigger, smart, faster, has a better arm, more elusive. And Coach Carr wants to go with him. And then he gets drafted. He's 199th pick. And then he goes to the Patriots. And, he's accumulating all these Super Bowls. And then, Deflategate happens, and everybody's sort of coming after him. And meanwhile, I think rightfully so, given all the evidence, Coach Belichick has drafted his replacement in Jimmy Garoppolo. And that is a story as old as time as the NFL, right? I mean, I'm a Packers fan. It's, it's Favre to Rodgers, Rodgers to Love. All of that stuff is happening. But, I think on one hand, you have a coach who says the evidence says, you're not going to be, as Belichick says, age is age, right? And then you have another quarterback, you have a quarterback in Tom Brady who basically says, I'm playing until I'm 45 and I'm going to be the exception to the rule. And that sort of is the beginning, as Robert Kraft says, of the tension in their relationship.
I really watched these episodes with you in mind, as far as you saying it's just there's no right or wrong. Everybody's sort of presenting their side of it, and you really see that in these episodes. I loved Slater. You can have everybody can have their star and story hand, but Slater crushes this thing. I loved seeing him get his moment.
It's the best. It's the best part of the whole thing, because they're going into all the detail about how hard Belichick was on Tom, but he's also pointing out at the same time that's why it worked. Nobody was above the team.
Yeah, I loved hearing from him in this, but you spent a lot of time here focusing on how brutal Belichick was to Tom. Were you surprised by sort of the extent of that?
I was surprised by some of the details that people went into and the words that they used. You have Randy Moss saying he, decapitated Brady and all this stuff. But I think the thing that I hope people take away from it is, yes, it was obviously a hard environment to play in. And yes, this is part of the friction that inevitably ended the 20-year dynastic run. But I also think that, like Matthew Slater points out in it, I don't think they have the success that they do without that culture and without that system, where every rookie comes in, here's Belichick tearing Brady's head off, and says, okay, if Tom Brady's taking it, then I better too. And I think some people look at this and they say, well, why didn't Bill change? And my answer to that is, why would somebody who's won 6 Super Bowls change the culture that's created it for that much time? And so like I said, I've always said to you, and I think I appreciate you pointing it out, that, I really do see both sides in this. I see why he drafted Jimmy G. I see why it upset Tom. I see why Belichick never changed. It all makes sense to me.
We have 2 episodes left. I can't, like, I have goosebumps thinking about it. We have like 20 seconds. Plug the last 2 episodes of The Dynasty.
Well, I sort of think of it as nothing lasts forever. And this is unfortunately the part where this thing that is remarkable mostly for the fact that it lasted 20 years, unfortunately comes to an end and the tension boils over and Tom leaves.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see it. You've done a brilliant job. It's amazing, guys.
Thank
Check
you.
out the last 2 episodes. I can't wait to see the brilliant theater of it all. This week, this Friday, those drop on Apple TV+. Matt, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on.